The bureaucratic nonsense is 10 times worse here because it's all about leveling the friggin' playing field. They want everybody at subsistence level.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
This is a short video that I recorded with Tom Luongo from Go Goats and Guns and Faisal from Buna Capital. Now, this is a prelude to a much longer video which I'll be posting in the next day or so, so please do watch out for that. That video features Tom and Faisal giving their unique analysis on what's happening in the world. So I saw in Zero Hedge that the Supreme Court said there's Chevron defense doesn't apply, which my understanding is that the US government cannot use regulations in order to enforce policy and change things, like how Biden wanted to get rid of gas stoves. He could do it through regulation. They're saying, no, that needs to go through Congress through the proper procedure for creating laws. Can't just rely on ambiguous statutes. And my read of it, Tom, why it's so great is it makes it harder for the WEF just to impose whatever they want.
Yes.
Plus, better for business and American liberty. Do you want to come in on that, Tom?
Yeah, the if we have a stable connection. What I would say about this is what the Chevron deference did was force the courts to, that if there was a challenge against an agency rule that came up in the courts, the court would always side with the agency because the agency had broad powers to enforce their rule, as opposed to it being narrowly defined. And it literally, the best way to describe it is it tilted the playing field in the EPA's favor or the Department of Energy's favor, that they literally had almost sole discretion, and that the person being harmed by this policy had to literally argue no harm whatsoever in order to get past the Chevron deference. Otherwise, the agency's opinion was the only one that mattered. This has now freed the courts up to send it right back to the agency and go, you've overstepped your bounds, and that we rule that that the burden of proof lies upon you to prove that this thing is, that this rule matters. You know, it's shifted the balance of power. It doesn't remove the EPA completely, or it doesn't remove agency power completely, but it makes it much more difficult for them to just issue a rule, stroke of the pen, law of the land, kind of cool sort of thing. Now it has to, if they really want to push through egregious changes, it should go through Congress. It should be legislated, which is what should have been in the first place. Should have never been put in place. So the Chevron deference was never a good idea. So it was clearly one of those things that was put in place by a previously globalist court in order to enact this agenda that's led us to this moment. And then finally, we have a court that's like, yeah, this is all bullshit.
So being a car guy like myself that you are, how does this news help unwind all of this cafe stuff?
Well, it literally, there's two things. But one, cafe is a little weird because it's been mostly enforced by executive order. If you've got a president and an EPA that are in lockstep together issuing these rules, then whatever the EPA says, the president will sign off on. Trump blocked cafe as the first thing he did.
Okay,
when he stepped into office. It literally ended cafe on day one. Suspended the rule.
Tom Faisal, what's CAPE?
That's in the U.S. That's the corporate average fleet economy. CAPE is the corporate average fleet economy that American auto manufacturers have to hit a certain target of average miles per gallon. And again, this shit was all put in place during the Nixon administration, or right after the Nixon administration back in the 70s during the oil price shocks, which, by the way, was when the Chevron deference was adjudicated by the court.
Right.
So it was all done at the same time. But CAPE, so it basically says, well, the Stellantis, for example, has to hit 28 miles per gallon across their entire average fleet of all their car sales, and so then they have to bias what models they sell at what prices in order to try and goose. And it's all on the manufacturer to offer the cars that the government wants them to sell. The market may demand pickup trucks with V8s in them, but that doesn't matter because if they sell too many of those, then they get fined. Okay,
Right.
and then those fines go to, interestingly enough, they go to Elon Musk, because those
Right.
fines went to car companies that were above the CAFE regulations, and so it was all a big wealth transfer. It was all a big, wealth transfer system. It was just terrible. And then even worse than that, I did an entire podcast with Eric Peters on this, on the Gold Goats and Guns podcast, and we went deep into this. And this would, this is part. So why are pickup trucks so big in America? Why are there no small pickup trucks in America? Because not only was there the corporate average fleet economy, but there was also, for trucks and for cars, the minimum mileage that you had to hit was based on the footprint of the car. So wheelbase times length. So what kept happening was, the trucks had to keep getting bigger and bigger in order to make hit the mileage target, and it was a decaying exponential. So a small pickup truck had to hit 50 miles per gallon, but 140 wheelbase monstrosity that, that BP can't see out of, only needed to hit 20. So this is why you've got your average Ford F-150 today is bigger than a Ford F-350 Super Duty was 15 years ago. Okay. Yeah. And it's purely because it's just physics, man. Like, we can build a V8 and we can build a V8 that moves a 5,000 pound truck with aluminum frames and this and that and all, and substituting out aluminum and everything else, and take what would have been, say, 20 years ago, an 8,000 pound truck made out of steel. You get the weight down to 5,000 pounds, and then you can get the MPG up on that size truck to up to 21 miles per gallon, and you're good to go. And we got to a point where this is why all the truck manufacturers, for example, Toyota, Ford, GM, Ram, and everyone has had to move to smaller engine, small turbocharged engines, because one, a turbocharged V6 weighs 400 fewer pounds than a 5.7 liter V8 Hemi, or that venerable 5.7 liter Toyota, or the 5.6 liter Nissan engine. Like, these are great engines that have another 30 years worth of service life in them. They're brilliant, and they can't sell them because then they get fined $5,000 to $7,000 a unit in order to actually put the fucking things on the road.
So, thank you. How will this affect the car industry plus other industries?
Well, the car industry then is now liberated. If CAFE goes away, they can go back to giving us V8 trucks. They can go back to making small diesel trucks. Like, they emitted so CAFE on the one side, the EPA on the other. The EPA then turned around and said, well, you got your emissions on your tailpipe emissions down so low that it pretty much precluded all on-road diesel.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we have a small pickup truck that they get 60 miles to the gallon? It's because you can't get, so in order to get, so then they added all this Rube Goldberg shit onto the diesel engines, the emission reburns and all this other crap they put on the diesel engines. And it's literal just Rube Goldberg destroyed their efficiency, added weight, added complexity. They did it on purpose in order to make them unsaleable. Then they could only go on the most expensive models, and they were $8,000 upcharges for no net benefit really, other than the torque of the engine. There's no gas mileage efficiency. It was just all terrible. Like, you could never recoup the cost of the engine over the life of the car.
But with the news of this ruling that you tweeted about today, how imminent is the demise of these stupid ideas like the CAFE and whatnot? Like, does it introduce some imminence to this stuff going away, or do we still have to deal with?
So.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think you'll see that maybe there'll be some lawsuits that are then immediately filed, but they won't go anywhere between now and the election. But if Trump wins in the fall and he comes in with coattails in Congress, then he puts in a Department of Energy secretary and an EPA secretary who they could just literally dismantle all of this. So by next year, like by this time next year, CAFE may be in the ash bin of history.
Wow. Okay.
That's
imminent enough for me.
And it should be, along with 2.1 gallon friggin' toilets that don't clear your shit, and the ban on incandescent light bulbs, and all the rest of it. Like, and the one guy responded to me this morning, or gas cans. Have you looked at the fucking insanity of gas cans that the EPA has pushed on us here in America to make a dripless gas can that doesn't work, by the way? So then you wind up just having to unscrew the top and get a hose, and you can't even refill your fucking car in America anymore. I mean, dead serious. You can't buy a gas can, and then they just look at you like, oh no, they work brilliantly. I'm like, for who?
Yeah.
Like, have you ever used these friggin' things? Like, you need to
royal
refill your,
pain in the
you
ass,
can't even
yeah.
refill your lawnmower with them.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's awful.
Yeah.
I've spilled more gasoline in my life with these spillless gas
Yeah.
cans than I ever spilled with just a simple with a simple spout on the end of the gas can.
Yeah.
Wow. So this will liberate.
You guys have
American
no idea.
industry.
I think that I listen to the crazy shit and the regulations that come out of Britain, and I'm like, okay, that's crazy. And then I stop for a second. I go, never mind. I live in America.
Yeah. California. God
Like,
bless
it's
California.
worse. And it's literally shit like this, guys, that made me go, okay, America is being singled out and targeted to be destroyed by this stuff. Because as bad as it is in other countries, I've got news for you. It's 10 times, the bureaucratic nonsense is 10 times worse here because it's all about leveling the friggin' playing field. They want everybody at subsistence level. They want to destroy entrepreneurship. They want to destroy comparative advantage. The United States has a structural comparative advantage over Europe. We've had it forever, and we will continue to have it in perpetuity because we have our own freaking natural resources, and we don't have a bunch of fucking communists running us. Well, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, this is, we don't have it even embedded in our DNA, and so they have to do this. Yeah, it's foundation. The foundational documents of the country are and this is where we are.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that little piece on the Chevron defense.
Yeah.